Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals. Tonight, I have a great friend with me on Mr. Philip Webb. How's it going?
I'm doing really amazing, my friend. I'm doing amazing today. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so tonight we're going to be discussing another, I guess you would call it investment vehicle that until quite recently I didn't even know existed. And that's actually being able to own and operate and build a business around ATM machines. So, Philip, before we dive deep into the ATM side of it, just tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about you.
Oh, okay. So I've been in the ATM business for about 20 years now. We started, I just give you basically a history of how we started. Is About 20 years ago, I used to be what they call an amusement games operator, which meant we placed similar to the ATM business. We placed amusement games, pool tables, pinballs, jukeboxes into bars and restaurants. And I was in a bar and we were doing a collection. And what happened is I saw the business owner and he would get his mail when I was there and he was screaming at his mail. And I got done and I said to his name is Patty. And I said, Patty, I said, what are you doing? Why are you screaming at your mail? He says, oh, Phil, he says, I'm tired of this. He says, people come in the bar and they want to eat something. And you know what? They get a little short from time to time with their revenue. And they said, hey, can you lend me money? I'll write you a check, $50, $100. I can still eat at your establishment, drink some beverages, but I just don't have enough to get. Can you do that? And the owner said, sure, no problem. I'll write me a check. I'll hold it for a little time till they get their check, and then I'll deposit that. And they agree upon a time. Maybe it's 5 days, maybe a week, and they would do that. Now, what would happen is the owner of that establishment, Patty, he would deposit that check after that agreed upon time. And what happened is it would be short. It would bounce. NF non-sufficient funds, a lot of those. Now the bank would return those to them, debit his account, and charge him to do that. So he would call up the people and say, hey, you bounce a check, can we come in and square up? They ignore his phone calls. So he would call their friends and say, hey, Tommy gave me a check for, and it didn't clear. Can you tell Tommy to come in? And they would say, okay, I'll do that. And they still wouldn't square up. So then he would take their check and he put it on the back of the bar to embarrass them. So they would come into the bar to square up with him. And they still wouldn't do that. And he would get mad. He said, Phil, here's the problem. He's like, I lose my customer. It's not a lot of money, but it adds up, to be honest with you, 25, 50, $100 at a time. So I lose the money, I lose the customer, and the bank hits me, and you know what? They're getting tired of bouncing checks, and I'm getting tired of paying for it. And he said, I'm frustrated. And so from time to time, you hear me yell. And I said to him, Patty said, what if there's a way that not only you could eliminate bouncing checks, you don't lose your customer, and you keep that money? And he said, Phil, if I could do that, how much money does that program cost me? And I said, I got that program, but it doesn't cost you anything. Actually, I pay you. And he goes, I don't care. He said, I don't want any of your money. Just let's solve this problem. And so I said, here's what we're going to do. I'll put an ATM in your bar. Your customers can take their card. They got a debit card. They put it in there. If they have the funds, they get the funds. If they don't have the funds, then it's not on you. And you stop taking checks. He says, I love it. And so we put the ATM in there. And that's how I started in the ATM business. And I found a way that I was solving a problem, is really what it came out to be.
Right.
I could solve a problem for him that he didn't have to take checks anymore. I solved the problem for me because now we started earning some more extra income in a place that we were already earning income. I had the relationship with the bar owner. I knew how to do the business. I knew about the ATM business about a year, but I didn't have the hook of what it made sense. And now I had that. I had the hook of what made sense for the bar owner. I knew how to do the business, and we were adding extra income to our business. And so that's how I started in the ATM business. And what happened is, this was about 2001. In 1999, the banking industry deregulated ATMs, and they allowed entrepreneurial people to buy their own ATM. And I didn't know about it either. Okay, I just knew that this was a program, and then I started doing it a little at a time, and then I was finally able to find a hook, solve a problem, and start putting ATMs in businesses. And once I did that, I went to business owner after business owner. I told them about what we were doing, not taking checks anymore, and they were like, "Oh, I love it." And we started putting out ATMs, and that's how I got into the business.
Oh, that's phenomenal because you recognize that there was a problem.
Mhm.
You had a solution. Because I can imagine if there was no issue, then somebody would be like, well, why do I want to put this in my business? And then there's a whole nother kind of storyline or something that you have to come up with to try to sell them that. But you solved a problem that's needed. And even today, I can see that there's still an issue in different places because people go to gas stations, they go to check cashing places to try to cash their checks, and that money may not be there. So when we're thinking about the ATM business, where did or by putting an ATM, how does it actually work? Because I didn't know it existed until about 2 years ago. Hey, you're 20 years ahead of me. I always thought that the banks control that. They control the money, they control the ATM. So how do we start? Where do you even begin to look for the process to owning your own ATM?
So we did that. So what I did years ago is I started doing that myself. I started putting ATMs in places, and then I started getting good at it. And I would talk to other business owners that were in same lane of business that I was with amusement operators, and I would talk to them about ATMs, and they would just throw their hands back and they say, "Phil, I don't know anything about the ATM business. I have no idea what you're even talking about. You're telling me people will pay to get their own money? You're crazy." And I said, "Yes, they do." And I said, "That doesn't make any sense." I said, "I know, but we can make money doing that." And then they would say, "I don't know how to do that." I said, "Look, I'll teach you what I know." And that's how I started the process back in the day doing that. Now, um, what one of the things in the ATM business is, I just want to touch your audience and say, look, here's what this means to you is every time you go to the ATM and you hate paying that $2, $3, sometimes $5 fee,
Mhm.
now I can teach you how to not only not pay it, but I can teach you how to get some of that money every time. So if you are paying, you're paying yourself. And so just every time you guys use that ATM and you're like, oh, I hate that fee, unless you go to maybe your own bank,
Mhm.
how would you like to get that money? That's what we can do here. And that's what we've developed a program that teaches you from what I call it the A to Z approach, which it's A to Z, that teaches you step by step how to get in the ATM business, how to be successful, and how to basically create financial freedom for you and your family.
Now, when we're thinking about the ATM business, and this is what we look at when we start to think about different businesses, different investment vehicles, is the ATM business one which you can kind of put on autopilot where you can build it out or establish it enough to where you aren't the individual that's having to do all of that work?
It's yes, you can. To answer your question, yes, you can. It is. I would say it's not necessarily a hands-off business, but it is a very not very time-consuming business. Which means if you have, I break it down in times in a time that every ATM you got on the street or in the locations, you figure it's 30 minutes of maintenance a week. So if you got one, you're talking about 30 minutes. If you got two, it's about an hour a week. Now you could minimize that time by putting more money into the ATM, but but that includes from the time you get to the bank, to the time you pull the money out, to the time you drive there and put money in there. That is that's your whole time. It's not exactly passive, but it's almost passive, like virtually spotless kind of situation.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But to answer your question, you can also, when you get to yourself in a better position, you can actually hire a person to what we call vault cash that's actually put the money into those ATMs. And we have controls and principles and procedures that you can track all that money and make sure that you get every dollar that you're supposed to, and nobody doesn't become a partner of yours without you knowing.
That's that, "Ooh, I'm taking a vacation money."
Right.
Disappearing. So you definitely have to have some rules and procedures. Now, thinking about that, rules and procedures, regulations, is there something that we have to do in order to be licensed or is there training? Is there some kind of governmental regulation that we may have to first start off with before we can start in this business?
So no, okay. So there is some regulation, and so we have basically one of the number one things you want to do is you want to when you start, if you decide, hey, this is the business that I want to go to, you want to set yourself up with an S corporation. Okay, it's the principle number one that we teach in our program is set yourself up with an S corporation, not an LLC. If you decide, hey, I had an LLC, can I apply it? Yes, you could, but we got to file as an S corporation. So that's the first step. Then the second step is once we have our paperwork of our corporation and we take that paperwork, we go to a banking facility, we open up 3 checking accounts, one for your general checking for your business, one for your what we call vault cash. That's the money that goes into the ATM, okay, that you will get back the next day. And then your surcharge account, which that's the money that you paid at $3 or however much it is, you're getting that back the next day also. So that would be your second principle that you will have to do. And then and then you gotta, then another thing is now we have to find a location to place the ATM. Okay. Once we find that place, you have to have contracts or documentation that says to the location owner, this is what I'm going to do, this is what you're going to do, and this is how we're going to make it all happen so everybody's accountable. At the end of the month, they'll receive their commission, and you'll have all trackability. You'll give them a statement, and now we're making money on a daily basis, basically. And I always say, somebody says, Phil, what's your favorite number? My favorite number is 24/7, 365, because that's what I want to make money
Oh, that's
at. Right?
good. That's good.
Yeah.
And so just thinking about that, it sounds like a lot in your course, your A to Z, because you did write a book on this and you
Mhm.
also you have a course and then you do the coaching. So you
Yes.
will walk us through this if we come and enroll in your course, how to do each one of these things. Do you provide samples of that kind of documentation that's needed? Kind of like
Yes.
templates?
So we give you um, a sample. It's not exactly a sample. I mean, it's more than a sample. It's actual agreement. You just got to fill in the names of the location. But we give you they call a placement agreement that now you can take that documentation to your location owner. We give you brochures. We teach you how to solicit business, what's the best types of businesses to do that. And we have 3 tools, so to speak. We have an online coaching program that you can just take it whenever you want. It'll give you everything I just said and more. There's 70 videos, and it'll teach you from A to Z how to do that. Some people are like, you know what, I'm good. That's all I need. If you need a little bit more, we also have a coaching program along with that you can look at the online portion of it, and then you say, you know what, how do I do 1, 2, and 3? I understand what you're saying, but can you take a little bit deeper dive? And we have coaching calls every other week that help explain some of that, um, in case you get stuck. And sometimes you need that just a little bit extra. Hey, Phil, I'm talking to a store owner. What do I'm just stuck here. They're asking me question 1 and 2. I don't understand. You know what? We help you, talk you through any situation. I've been through every situation. I just got off the phone. It's funny that we were here with a gentleman asked me, how do I do this? What do I do? And I was giving him some instruction. He's like, man, thank you for helping me. I'm like, yeah, not a problem. And the gentleman's in Brooklyn, New York. So he's like, it's tough here. I was like, it's tough everywhere. So, but yeah, we give you all that instruction. You're not just by yourself here. We help you through the whole process. Now, one of the things that sets us aside is I'm not just it's kind of like I just don't use the hair for club for men. So it's kind of like that because our business, we sell ATMs, we process transactions, we do it every day, day after day. I live the business. So it's not like I'm selling something that I don't know how to use. I use it every day, and we help every day. So
Perfect. And that's a good question for that I just thought about. The ATM itself, the machine itself, you sell those to other people looking to get into the business?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Because I was wondering, like, okay, if I want to get into business, where do I get the machine from?
We got you. We got you. So what happens is now, let's say you go through the program. You go through a program, you get a location, you're all excited about it. You're like, okay, now what do I do, Phil? It's like, we got you. So you give us the paperwork, we program the ATM, we ship the ATM out to you. We instruct you on how to, let's say, secure to the floor. It's got to be secure. I don't want your money walking away out the door. So we teach you how to secure to the floor. We teach you how to communicate, make sure it communicates to the processor. And sometimes there are people, they say, you know what, that's a little out of my league. I don't. And we got companies that we work with, we partner with, that will actually secure to the floor for you until you get comfortable enough to do it yourself. Maybe that's just not your bag. You don't want to do that. But we work with other companies that will help do that in case that your business needs that assistance. And we help process a transaction, which we give you a mobile app. You can see it in real time on your desktop, or let's say on an iPad or an iPhone, you can see it, and you'll know exactly where your money is at all times. You'll know where your customer's money is, and everything's in real time, 100% transparent. So you can know where you're at. You can watch your money grow, kind of like a stock, so to speak.
Okay, that's good. That's great information because for the listeners out there, when we're talking about investment vehicles or different things that can help remove you from your job or just supplement and give you financial freedom, we want things that are packaged nicely. And this is packaged real nicely. You're There's not a whole lot of question marks behind it. Or, like you said, since you're in the business, you do this, you're not just telling us a little bit and then, oh, you got to go find out the rest of the information from somewhere else. So I definitely appreciate the way you package this and plan it out. Now, for you got into this 20 years ago. Do you feel like at this point the ATM business may be saturated? And I don't know. Didn't even I don't think so because I don't hear anybody talking about it. Like besides you, I only know one other person that has ever mentioned, and I don't think he ever mentioned that. I heard somebody say that he had ATMs. How do you think this business is as far as saturation? A lot of people in the business or very few?
So I would say okay, it's just like anything. Once when you don't think about the ATM business, you kind of see them here, but you're not paying attention. Once you get in, you're like, man, they're everywhere. How am I supposed to get into the business if there is a lot of ATMs? So I would say it's pretty much just like anything else. There is a lot of ATMs out there, but there's a lot of opportunity. And all we need is, I just need, we're just starting out. We don't need a lot. We just need one. Because what is an ATM going to generate you? And that's something that you want to put in your head. An ATM is going to generate you anywhere from $200 to $500 a month. That's the target. Our particular target is $250 for every ATM. That's what we want to generate. If we generate more, great. If we generate less, we'll make an evaluation. We'll pull that ATM out and look for another spot. But we look for another spot before we pull it out. So it is a little, I will say there are a lot of ATMs out there, but there's a lot of room for growth. Now, the question people will ask is, Phil, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but I'm thinking everybody's got credit cards. They use your debit cards. They've got the Cash App. They got Venmo. They're doing all these things. I don't necessarily see ATMs being into the game for a long time. Well, I've been in the game for 20 years. Cash is not going away. Okay.
Right.
Is there different forms? Yep, there will be. There will always be a need for cash. I guarantee that. But just to give you where the ATM industry is going is, we call it next generation. Next generation ATM is going to be where there's going to be added things. It's kind of like your cell phone. So remember back in the day, you had your cell phone, you could flip it up and you could dial, and that's all there is. Now we got the camera, we got apps, we got all this stuff. That's the same mentality that the ATM wants to do. We still use it to make a call, but we're also doing a bunch of other things. And now I can't leave the house without this. It's like I need my keys and my phone. Everything else is I don't really need. And that's where we're going with the ATM. We're going to put value added programs on the ATM where it makes it very valuable in the spot. Keep in mind, the ATM is into a location and it's already has that sense of real estate. So now if we can put value added services onto that, just makes it that much more valuable. And now you already got that piece of real estate. So once you have the real estate and you have the relationship, you're good as gold. So you can add more value going down the line.
That's good. That's good. Now, when we're thinking about the money part of it, the money aspect, the money that goes into the ATM, we get it back once somebody uses it to and it pulls from their account. I know how that will work. But what if I'm just starting out and I might not have a lot of capital up front? What's the minimum I need to be an investor or that I would need to put into the ATM?
So I always go with a minimum investment of $6,000. Okay, that'll be $2,500 for the ATM. Then you have your vault cash, let's say $2,000, and then you have coaching. So I try to put in a $6,000 framework. Sometimes you get the coaching a little cheaper. Sometimes you get the ATM a little cheaper. Sometimes you put a little less vault cash. It just depends. But I would say figure this is $6,000 for for your first ATM and with coaching and training. After that, then you're going to decrease that, and now you're going to leverage your second location and some of your vault cash. So let's say the price of it is going to be somewhere around $2,500. Uh, yeah, 20. Let's just say $2,500 for an average cost. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, but $2,500. I always think in my head that when I tell people to get in the game, I figure 2,000. But when you're in the game for a long time, you got to figure 3,000 for an ATM.
Mhm.
But you're leveraging your money, kind of like I would say shell game is right here. You when you start out, it's 2,000. You start here 2,000, but sometimes the money does this.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you only got 1,500 in this ATM, but you got 35 or 25 in this ATM, but together it's 4,000. So that's what you want to. That's what you're doing with the ATM business. So, but for your is that I don't know what that is, but for what you want to do is you want to just figure in about 6,000 to start the process.
Okay. That's good. That's very clear. Keeps because I'm thinking, oh, do you need 10, 15, 20,000 to put in there?
No. Now, some people will say, well, how much does an ATM hold? And it depends on what kind it is. But an ATM will hold as much as 20, an average ATM will hold 20,000. And sometimes it'll go up to 100,000 depending on if it's a bank ATM or what we call it a 1K cassette, which holds 1,000 notes. If you're putting 20s in, that's 20 grand. If you're putting 10s in, it's 10,000. Um, you're never gonna, I'm gonna say you're never. Most of the times you won't need that kind of money in there, but sometimes you could, depending on the location.
Good, good. And you mentioned the banks. Do the banks still own a good amount of ATMs that's not on bank property?
So yes, but so yes, they do, but it's a loss leader for the banks. And what does that mean? It's kind of like I'm gonna use Walmart for example. And everybody always sees. I don't know. I'm an old school guy. So back in the day, my mom would get the Sunday paper, and inside that Sunday paper, I don't even think they deliver papers anymore. I don't know, but they would get the advertisement. And in there, she would go through. She'd pull that advertisement out. She'd look for the what was on sale that week, and she's like, "Oh, look at this! The Food Mark has steaks on sale, and then we got
Mhm.
corned beef or whatever it was." She would circle that. And she'd go all over. I don't think anybody does it, but that's the way I grew up. So, um, but they would have loss leaders. Let's say so Walmart would run, let's say like $3.99 for a case of pop or something like that. Or so I'm here in the central, so we call it pop, but I don't know what you guys call it out where you're at. But um, so they would have a case of Coke for let's say $3.99, and then we would go to Walmart and buy that Coke, and then it would get you in the door. So they call them, loss leaders. And the banking industry is the same thing. They offer a lot of ATMs for free to get you in. So you buy their checkbook, so you do you get you familiar with that brand of banking.
Okay.
But they don't make any money because how can you make any money? They're saying let's go use Chase. I'm a Chase customer. I don't pay any fees at the ATM. So therefore it doesn't make me any money. So what Chase and some of the bigger banks is they want that presence, but they don't want to do the work because the ATMs for banks cost about 20 grand. They got to put money in there. They got to hire somebody to fill it. They don't want to do that. So what they've done is they taken and they said, look, I don't want to do this anymore. And they've outsourced it to kind of like guys like me, that now we would go in, we open up, and this is next level stuff, but we open up the bin, which is a banking identification number. And now those Chase customers can get free ATM on those ATMs. And Chase would cut a deal with me and say, okay, we want to negotiate free for our customers. And then the other non-customers you charge for. So that's what they've done. So if you're familiar with like with Walgreens, Walgreens used to be Chase ATM. They sold that book of business to a company like ours, and now they put their ATM, but they opened it up for Chase customers. So
Mm, interesting. A
yeah,
lot of behind the scenes stuff. This is where coaching comes in.
yeah.
And when we're thinking about coaching, we definitely want coaching to help us get to that next level, to learn from the mistakes and to grow and to follow the path of success that you've obviously created over time. What are some of the pitfalls that you've seen in the ATM business? Because I've been in real estate for a while and it's very heavy. And when people fail in real estate, they usually fall because there are specific things that they just did not do. For instance, if you go in to flip a house, most people fail in that because either they don't know how to manage contractors or they know nothing about construction. So everything just goes crazy and they say, well, real estate isn't for me. It's a terrible business. When we're talking about ATMs, what are some of the common mishaps or misconceptions or missteps that a person would take and fail?
So the number one thing that they don't do is they don't set the, I guess, the deal up right. So if they go into the ATM business, what they need to do is they need to set up their corporation and get that tight. That's number one. They have to solidify a good banking relationship with the bank. Okay. Now that would be in real estate. That would be this exact same thing if you're building a house. Now what I do is I get the excavator out there. We put the foundation. We excavate. We get the ground solid, and now the foreman comes in and they lay the foundation. So the foundation is the corporation. Okay. Now I got a good foundation, I get good cement. Now I'm going to build my house on top of that. And my house is now it's my contract in the ATM business. It's like, okay, my contract says I'm going to do X and the location is going to do Y. And we set the deal up. What's the split, when people are going to get paid, and how long is the contract? Okay. How long is this business going to go on? So now I got my banking relationship, I got my foundation, I got my deal, and now I'm ready to be successful in the business. Now sometimes the business does it ebbs and flows. So once you start out in the business and you got everything dialed in, and now you're making money, and something changes in that environment, you got to be able to pivot and say, you know what, businesses change. I need to make a change. And so at that stage, your location agreement gives you, if you did it right, will give you the flexibility to say, look, I can change this deal because the deal doesn't financially make sense anymore. And that could be as much as changing the split arrangement. That could be as something of that says, you know what, we're just going to remove our ATM because it doesn't work anymore. Okay. And so you in the ATM business, it's a fluid business. It's not, you always got to be looking for the next deal, and you got to always make sure that it's not about the placement, but it's the revenue that we generate. That's what I get excited.
Mhm.
Too many people fall in love with the idea of placing an ATM, but they forget the only reason they're doing it is to make the money. And
Right.
that money changes the dynamics for my family. It changes the dynamics for what, I call it let's call it the freedom effect. The more money I have, the more freedom I have. And that's the reason why we do it, or at least that's why I do it, is to be able to buy my freedom back. And so we got a little saying is, I'm going to teach you how to buy your freedom back one transaction at a time. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish. And those are the pitfalls. They get in love with the idea, but it's not about the idea, it's about the process.
Oh, that's good. That's good because in every industry is the same thing. Oh, I want to be a flipper. I want to be a rehabber. I want to be a wholesaler. I want to be a landlord. But then when that process comes around and you see the real work that it takes behind the scenes, then you fall out of love. I think HGTV is a main corporate or culprit for that. They make it look beautiful to do this business, and real estate is not a pretty business at all. Even the most seasoned guys go through those ebbs and flows, those pain points when things change. If you're not able to pivot, you end up failing. And I really love that you said that, just bringing in the process. So, listeners out there, the ATM business is another tool, it's another resource, it's another avenue, but it still is a business that has a unique process, and you have to follow the process, make these things repeatable. You don't want to be doing different things or trying to figure it out on the fly, because I'm pretty sure that while you have to pivot, you have your plan of action in order to do that.
Yep. And just you know what, and you get into the business, and you build relationships, and things just come to you because you've been in the business for a little while, and you let everybody know you're in the business, and you let store owners know, and you change your routes. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So if my wife says to me, hey, can you go down to the grocery store and pick up whatever, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Now it might take me a little bit longer because I might be going out of my normal circle instead of straight going. I might stop over here, just check out, oh, there was a new building went up. Is there a laundromat? Is there a barbershop going there? Is there something where I could, a liquor store where I could put in an ATM? So I might go in there. I go to get the stuff that she's talking about. On the way home, I might stop in and look at something, because every chance that I could get to place an ATM is what I'm gonna try to take that shot, because the more ATMs I got on the street, if they're profitable, the more money we can make as a family. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Perfect. Now you mentioned, if you said if it's profitable, can an ATM not be profitable? I guess if it's not being used effectively, then the money just kind of sits there and you're still having, would you still have to pay the I guess the leasing fee for sitting in a building and it's not really producing?
So you're not paying. So what happens is the agreements that we set up, and the way I teach you guys to set up is, you'll buy the ATM, you'll place it in a business, what we call free of charge. So that means it doesn't cost the business owner anything. There's no cost to the business owner at all, and they're just there to make additional revenue,
Mhm.
with the idea that what they're doing is providing convenience for their customer to get cash when they need it. You're solving, and a lot of times you're solving a solution. The store owner wants either they don't accept credit cards, so they need a cash solution or a payment solution, or sometimes they need to drive traffic to their location via, let's say, a gas station or convenience store. They see a little ATM sign in the window. People come there to get money, and then maybe they buy some. If it's a liquor store, some liquor or some beer, or if it's a convenience store, they're buying milk or something of that nature, and they're getting their cash, and they buy their product and they leave, and that's why people come in there to do that. So we're trying to form a solution, every time, and I said that before, but that's what we're trying to do, driving traffic to that location. But there are some times when the business changes direction, as I said. Maybe you got a cash only barbershop, and what happens is, you got eight. I always tell guys or people, if we go to a barbershop, try to get at least 6 chairs. I get 6 chairs. I got 6 barbers. They're cutting hair,
Mhm.
and you know what? It's cash only, no problem. We make money. Now all of a sudden the barber shop changes hands. New guy comes in. You know what? He wants to do credit cards. So now you have an ATM and a cash only barbershop before, and it changes hands. It goes to credit card, and now your ATM transaction volume goes down. So you got to look to say, you know what? I need to make an adjustment, and I got to get out of there and put it in another business that needs my ATM. This doesn't work for me anymore. So that's when we would pivot.
Okay, good, good. Now, I know that things like COVID-19 happening has shifted a lot of industries and has impacted all of us in different ways. How has that impacted the ATM business? I know sales went down across a lot of industries. So was that reflective in the ATM business as well?
So it was in different arenas, not every arena it was. So what does that mean? So if you had your ATM in a bar and restaurant, so there's, let's call it 8, 10 different arenas that you could place an ATM. That would make sense. If you were in a bar and restaurant arena and they shut down the bars and the restaurants, which they did in almost every state, that your ATM doesn't get used because there's no people in the bars. There's no people in the restaurants. the states have said, no, we're not going to do that. So if you were in that area, you're not doing very well. If you're in hotels, as you know, a lot of people aren't traveling right now. So if you had a hotel, which was a great spot, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never shut down, travelers all the time. Now nobody wants to travel because they're afraid of the disease, or not the infection, COVID-19. So now those ATMs aren't getting used. If you're in laundromats, they were good. Convenience stores, they were good. Liquor stores were good. Liquor, for some reason, was an essential business. I don't know why. I can't figure it out, but the math doesn't add up in my head. But you know what? As far as being in the ATM business and being there, I was loving that. Thank you. But um, so that worked out for in those arenas. It just depends on where you were. But for us as a company, we were down in a lot of those areas, and we were up in a lot of those areas. So it just depends on where we were at. For us, I got to be honest with you, we had to position ourselves in a different uh, um, situation, because a lot of our business was bars and restaurants, because that's where I started out, in the bar and restaurant industry. So through the time, we focused more on convenience stores, liquor stores, gas stations, and uh, and laundromats. And so but we also did a lot of hotel business, and the hotels they were shut down. So they were open, but they really weren't open. So we picked up some, the business that we had was elevated, but the cost wasn't enough to overcome what the other sectors were shut down.
Okay.
So but now that I would say we're post COVID, I would say, even though it's still going on, a lot of states and where we were are open. So it's not to the extent that was devastating. The other thing that was very interesting during the whole process is that the government gave unemployment, and those unemployment was all it was all it was like a debit card that the government gave us. So that means people would take that 1,200, 600, they'd go to ATM and they drain, boom, they hit that hard, and give me my 1,200, give me my $1,000, whatever they go week after week. of and so we saw a lot of increased transactional volume because of government, let's call it, I don't know what you call it, stimulus checks or added unemployment. That was a big thing. So there was a big increase in transactional volume because of that.
That's good. That's good to know. Just to know or to think about the things that can impact the business and then how you begin to pivot. Now, this might be a next level question. It's just posing in my mind because I'm thinking about all the places I see ATMs. Is it wise or can you have like an ATM on standby? And I think about that because when fairs come into town,
Mhm.
there's ATMs that get dropped on the fair. So I'm thinking like, okay, if I'm in the business, should I have one or two just sitting around? So when the fair comes, or you would begin to plan that because most fairs are on a predictable schedule. They're going to come into town on this date or this weekend in this period. So you can begin to plan that and kind of just have that ATM ready to go.
So yes, we call those mobile events, and we were very successful. Little I don't know, a bump. I guess it's like it's I call it it's like a side job inside of a side hustle is what it comes out to be. And what we would do is, we're here in the great state of Illinois, so basically from, I would say, a little after St. Patrick's Day to Halloween, we start to see mobile events. They get some spring festivals, then it really hits it hard between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Most every little town and county, they have, in city, they have Blues Fest or this fest or that fest. Um, and so those are mobile events. So we would contract out with some cities, some municipalities, some chamber of commerce, some farmers, depending on what it was. And we would place an ATM there for anywhere from 1 day up to 7 days, and multiple ATMs to get mobile transaction volume in that situation. What we would do is we would buy new ATMs and put them in the fairs or the festivals. And then at the end of the season, we put those on our route. And then we'd sell some of the older ATMs off the route to other people in the business. But it's a good way to make a lot of money real fast in there. You make thousands of dollars in a short amount of time in the fairs and festivals.
That's good. I'm just thinking about everywhere I've seen an ATM, how they are really, really needed. And another thing, which might be a next level question that I'm thinking about, when I'm looking to create or establish, sometimes you can take spaces in the market because of someone who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Does that exist in the ATM world as well? Because I know that there's certain locations I've been multiple times where the ATM is either not funded or it's broken. And I'm thinking like, why is the machine even here if it hardly ever works? So can you take market space from other providers when they don't offer a great service?
Yes, absolutely. And so we look for those opportunities all the time. That's kind of why when my wife says, go out to the supermarket and get me something, I'm like, yep, I'm out there because I'm looking in those arenas and I make those different circles all the time. I'll get gas somewhere where I never get gas. I'll go to, if I have to go to a convenience store or something, I'll go to, maybe I, instead of going to a grocery store, I go to a convenience store. I make those trips to some place I never been because I'm incorporating basically, I call it canvassing. So we're canvassing the area to see what's in my market. And I'm looking for what you just said. I'm looking, do they have an ATM? Yes or no? If they do, is it up and running or is it broken? Is it broken? Make a note of that. Okay, how many times is it broken? Because the store owner will say, you know what, I'm tired of this. Just like you said, ATM's always broke. It's not helping my customers, not helping my business. And so now I have an opportunity to to eliminate that ATM owner and put our ATM in there to help that business owner, and we make some money for our company. But we help the store owner out. So you're constantly looking for that type of situation all the time. And sometimes it's the ATM, it's a store owner. Now, a store owner could own their own ATM. So the store owner might own that ATM, but because maybe their business has changed, they just don't have the funds to put it in anymore. Maybe they don't want to do it anymore. Maybe the ATM, they bought it 5, 10 years ago and it's outdated. They have to make upgrades to it, but they don't want to make the upgrades to it. They don't understand how to do it. So they just said, you know what, I just, it doesn't work for me anymore. So those are the things you always look for to help you grow your ATM business.
Okay, perfect. Thinking about that now, you mentioned upgrades, updates. Do I need to be really technical in order to get into the business, or is this something that you will help me through once I begin to purchase my ATMs through you? Will you be able to talk me through updating them or providing whatever necessary tools that may need to be updated?
So yes, absolutely. We help you from wherever you're at and wherever your skill set is, and we help you develop a good skill set from a technical standpoint. Most of the time, you're gonna an ATM comes out and you're gonna look to about 3 years before any kind of I would call a little shift in technology will happen. Now, a major shift in technology happens about every 5 years, okay? But if you're on the beginning cusp of that, you would have the change before it becomes major. And if you're on the other end, you will learn your way around ATM so much so when it comes, you'll be dialed in and it'll be easy for you to make the change. But we will talk you through it. We will help you. We will assist you through your process and all upgrades. They have upgrades that probably come out um, as much as they're just like a little thumb drive we stick in. We update it to the latest software, pretty much maybe like your computer or your cell phone. They constantly make little upgrades and changes, make things better. So we'll assist on that. We'll send you out a thumb drive, download it with the latest greatest. You put it in, shut it off, establish the protocol by turning it on. It'll run down and you're good. If you have to make a major hardware change, then we will talk you through it and help you through the process. And like I said, it happens about every 5 years. Just keep in mind the last change we made was, if you all remember, the chip on the backside of your debit card or credit card. They just did that. We were talking about that from 2013. They finally implemented that as a hard line in 17. So for 4 years, they were talking about that shift. And now here we are. That was the last major shift that we made in the business.
Okay, got it. And what because I'm in personal development, real estate coaching. I always want the audience to know that you don't have to do this type of thing alone, and that I highly recommend that you get with someone like Philip to go through his program, go through his coaching so he can walk you through. There's no sense in struggling through when somebody that's been in the business for 20 years can step you through it. Outside of your coaching, I noticed that also you are a member of the ATM Industry Association.
Mhm.
Is that necessary for the mainstream person, or is that just, another association where you can speak with other people, get industry knowledge, and just stay up to date?
So for me, the reason we did it is because I try to be on the cutting edge of all latest and greatest technology. So I'm a member of the board of directors there. I'm also on what I call the next generation ATM. So I'm part of that committee that's leading the whole world into the industry, because I have to know where the ebbs and flows of the business, so I can explain it to not only our customers but our students. So they'll say, well, just what you said. Hey, I know the ATM industry is changing. Well, I'm developing those changes to help bring it down, so by the time it gets to the students or the new people, players in the game, they understand it, and I understand it so well that I can guide them through and say, stay away from this area. It'll save you money, and go this way. So that's what I try to do. You have to be a member of that. No, always, always the more knowledge you have is always going to help you in whatever industry you're in. But you don't have to be that. I'm just part of that industry because that's my industry, and I learn from a lot of the people that are smarter than me, and I try to surround myself with people always smarter than me. So, um, and that's what we do.
Absolutely. And that's just great information to know that there's an organization that is out there that has or can put you on the cutting edge. And you're one of the people who are making those decisions. So you'll be a great coach to have. They'll know things coming down the pipeline. Your students will be well aware. Now, I know you just, not recently, but you've been working on your YouTube channel. Tell us a little bit about the things you talk about on your YouTube channel.
So, so so we started, and to be honest with you, we started this. I've been teaching people for, like I said, 20 years of how to do this. And I was at a, so full circle here. So I was at a Game Changers event, and one of the Game Changers. So Game Changers is basically a program that Eric Thomas Association created to help people be professional speakers and to help them explore their lane. And one of the members of that organization said, Phil, you should join the Game Changers program. And I said, I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I have no interest in being a motivational speaker. And he said, but you should check it out. And I said, well, all right, well, let me check it out. And I went and I talked to my wife, and she said, you don't want to be a motivation. I said, I know, but he said, and anyways, so I said, okay, I'll try it out. So we got involved in that. We learned a bunch of stuff. And in there was a gentleman by the name of Bobby Burke, and he said to me, Phil, he said, there's people on YouTube and they're teaching people how to do ATMs. And I said, there they are. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay. And he gave me the link, and I researched them. And I said, and I'm not sounding arrogant when I say this, but I forgot more than they know.
I
And
know what you mean.
I said, this is what they're giving you a lot of smoke. It's all smoke. They're showing you Bugattis, and they're showing you yachts, and they got the fancy girls and the gold chains, and they're showing you a lot of money. But that's not the industry. I mean, it's a slow and steady industry. You can count on the money, but it's not the bling. It's not a bling bling situation. And you got to work. You got to work to make money. So I studied what they did, and I figured, what, I think I could do that. So I talked to a couple coaches actually that were in the Game Changers, and they said, yeah, we could teach you. And I found a lane, because now, which was ironic, I didn't want to be a motivational speaker, but I wanted to communicate, and they taught me how to communicate. So once I did that, now I had a purpose. It's just weird how you get that. And now I created a YouTube channel, and we started talking about the things that I saw they weren't doing in the other channels. What weren't they talking about? They're giving a lot of smoke, but not a lot of content. So we started giving the content. We started talking about what makes sense to people who want to get in the ATM business. If you've been in the ATM business, what can you do? How can you learn? And we're just trying to drop a lot of nuggets. And then we have a YouTube channel. It's free. We drop twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. We give a lot of free content. Doesn't cost anything to be part of that. And we help out a lot of people, and we get a lot of comments. Oh, it feels like you're speaking exactly to me. And and it's because that's the business. I'm in the business too. So it's not, I'm not teaching you something without living the life. So we're living a life. We hear a lot of the challenges and we just relay that to the channel. Maybe we can add value to you or somebody that wants to be in the ATM business, or they're just struggling. They just need that little extra push, or they're trying to figure out what is going on and how do we overcome those challenges. And so we do that with the channel. And then we also created an ATM mastermind group page. It's a Facebook page. It's a community of like-minded individuals who either are in the ATM business or they want to get in the ATM business. They're just looking for that little extra knowledge.
Mhm.
And so that's free to join too. So just to, maybe it's right for you, maybe it's not. I don't know. Only you'll know. But if you'll get to be around other like-minded individuals that want to get into the ATM business.
Oh, that's good, and you said both of those resources are free, so
Free.
if
Yeah.
you are interested or you wanna start to pick up things, you can get in those groups, you can go to the YouTube channel, watch him talk about how to work in the ATM business, how things work, and then once you're ready, go ahead and you move forward with the program and the coaching, and that takes you through there, because uh I guess every industry has almost the same similarities because in real estate, you got a lot of coaches. I mean, there are a ton of coaches, and half of these coaches never done a deal, or
Right.
they did one deal, bought another coach's program, and then they try to copy it, and it's all smoke and mirrors. But the process, you find out when they're talking, you're like, there's some gaps here. And virtual assistants is another thing that people usually get or fail with. And then when I asked them, okay, what did you do? How did you do it? Well, somebody told me that I can pay $2 for a virtual assistant and they'll do everything for me and then just put my business on autopilot. Well, it's not quite that simple. And I'm sure that the people that were on the YouTube channel with the flash, that's the motto. That's
Yeah.
the motto. If I can just show you some great looking things, I will capture people that want to see that. They will pay me, and then they'll figure out, okay, there's much more to this business. And then I failed. So I can definitely appreciate where you say that you bring the content in because we lack content in a lot of these channels.
Yeah.
So you've been in the business 20 years, and
Mhm.
as you start to bring this thing to a close, what's next for you? How do you continue to grow? Is this well, I just continue to add machines to my business, or what would the culmination of a great ATM master be?
So what I want to do is I want to add like second level. One of the challenges and what I see all the time is one of the reasons why we created the program is I was teaching business owners how to get into the ATM game. Okay. Now what I got to do is I got to teach non-business owners, 9 to 5 guys, how to get into business and then get in the ATM game.
Okay.
So the disconnect right now is I got to convince them, and I'm not trying to be arrogant when I say this, is you got a 9 to 5 mentality. I got to get you over to a business owner's mentality. And so what happens is a lot of the times the students, they say, oh, I'm ready to get in the game, but you're missing the step, and that's how to get in the business game. So that's what the program kind of teaches you is that's a very vital step is to learn business, then learn the ATM business. I could teach you ATM business all day long in my sleep, but what I got to get you is to get the mentality of a business owner. Okay. So I'm trying to develop level 2 courses, but break it down for what you're saying is because there's still that disconnect. And so we have to teach the people who are in the ATM business. They have a few ATMs, 3, 4, 5 ATMs. And now how do I get them to the next level? Where the next level is how do I do what you're talking about, Phil? How do I put it on autopilot or so to speak autopilot? Maybe I got to hire somebody. How do I manage my cash? How do I plan that out? How do I get where I in ATM businesses a little bit or where we're at, I can kind of put not multi-level stuff, but I can put a person underneath you. Maybe you can have a person underneath you, and then you can earn revenue from that ATM. We could teach that. And so that is how one of the next steps of our business is how do I teach that second level um, how to do that. Now I know how to do that, but we got to create a want in the marketplace. So that's what we're researching right now.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And you hit on a lot of interesting and a lot of great points. And becoming a business or having an entrepreneurial mindset is key for this, because a lot of this business is networking and it's canvassing and it's going out and meeting people and talking and being able to show your proposition and how it's a win-win for not only you but for that business owner. A lot of people probably want to get an ATM, or when they think about it, they just think it's set and forget, because we just see the machine sitting there, but we don't see the work that it took in order to get that machine there, to keep it functioning and to keep everybody happy. So that is definitely great.
One of the things that we did, and I'll give you a perfect example, is look, I saw an opportunity in the Latino grocery stores. I don't speak Spanish. I got this much Spanish I can talk, but it's not a lot. And what happened is I went to business owner that I saw. Look, I go into the little the grocery stores. A lot of the Latino grocery stores, they have a little department. They have two departments. One, they'll sell some food on the one side, and the other ones they'll have like a currency type of exchange where they're sending money to different parts of the world. And you can't send money unless you have cash. So you have cash, come in the store to send money somewhere else. So what I would approach these store owners and say, look, we could put an ATM here, won't cost you anything, and you have money for the taqueria in the back, and you have money for them to send money. And they would say no after no after no. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? So I was in a grocery store once, and I saw this guy come in. I just got done talking to the owner. They said no. This guy walked in, was taking some orders. He went to the back and he ordered some tacos back there. I went back, I bought him a taco, and I said, look, how would you like to help me? I want to place ATMs in grocery stores, but I don't have the connection. You got the. He's like, oh, I know all these guys, and and he went from 100-mile radius. And I said, will you help me? He goes, yeah, this is easy. So I gave him some brochures and I told him what to say. And he said, okay. And then he just started. I literally got in my car. I got out to the stop sign and he called me. He said, hey, my friend over here wants to put an ATM. It was 4 minutes. So I said, okay, let me write it down. Pulled over. I wrote down the number. I called the guy. I set an appointment up. And the guy said, yeah, when can you have it in? And it was like that over and over and over. I didn't have the relationship. He did.
Relationship. Yep.
It's always a relationship. If you got the relationship, your money. And we try to create that relationship however we can. Sometimes it's through friends like that gentleman. Sometimes it's through networking. Sometimes it's by beating on the door time and time and time again and asking them. But we do all that. And you know what? We're successful. Get that information and get that ATM in, because at the end of the day, it's about that transactional volume that changes lives. So
Absolutely. And Phil, how can the people reach you if they want to reach out to you? I know you sent me your website. I'm going to drop that into the chat so people can see it. We got your YouTube channel, we got your Facebook page. Is there any other way that they can reach out to you for the course? Do you have just a website just for the course itself?
we no. So I would say no, we don't. We're working on an actual website for the course. We do have links that when people schedule something and we send it to them, they can uh, they can go to the course to purchase the course. But I don't have what you're talking about. Let's call it a landing page for all intents and purposes. I don't have a landing page just for the course. What I would do is, and we'll give you the link. I would do the do the um, do the YouTube, do the Facebook. In there, when you join the community, you can schedule a call with us and see if the course makes sense to you. And if it does, um, then you can purchase the course. So, but I don't. It's one of the things that I should work on is the landing page, but we're in the process of doing
Absolutely. I always got to give my my interviewee some homework to do.
that.
You got a little bit of homework. Phil, I thank you so much for joining me. It was a very eye opener. Like I said, you've been in this 20 years. It was probably a year or two ago that I learned that an individual could even own an ATM. I didn't think it. I wasn't aware of it. I never heard anybody else mention it. And I want to remind our viewers that this is the entire purpose of the empowerment platform. just empowered you with some information that, hey, I didn't know this. Now this could be a vehicle or a tool that I can use that will give me financial freedom. And to know that there are great people out there like Phil who will help walk us through this, where we don't have to trip and stumble and fall. We didn't say he's going to make it perfect or easy, but he will give you the information and the tools that you need in order to be successful. And if you work the system, if you, as he said, work the process, you will and can be successful in this business as well. I got one more question for you because I'm looking at your bio. For people who want to exit the business, what would be a reason to exit the ATM business? And is this something that can be transferred to your children?
Yes. So what we what I do is I also talk about exit strategy. Okay, when we designed the program, my initial target market, to be honest with you, was retirees. Somebody who what, they wanted a little extra something to do. They didn't want that full-time job, or they were done with that. They just wanted to earn a little bit extra money for a given amount of time. Let's say maybe 10 years, 5 years. So let's say they retired 60 to 65, or maybe if they were very fortunate 55, and they wanted to do something. So we designed a program that was, you're building wealth through that process. And then what you were able to do is to sell that book of business, the ATM business, and get out with a nice little exit strategy. So what we always do is we put a thumbnail of 30 months. So what does that mean? Let's say I created a business, and let's say I was making $1,000 a month. Okay, my exit strategy is 30 grand. So it's 30 months of whatever revenue you want to do. So as long as you have, what I said before, contracts in place, those contracts are transferable. If you set up a corporation for, let's say, yourself, and you want to transfer it over your son or daughter or family member, you set the corporation, they buy the stock. Now they have that business. If they want to create a new corporation, they set up a new corporation. You assign those contracts to that new corporation, and it's easy. If you're processing with us, you would just give us the new banking information, and you tell us the time that it's in company A, and at this time it goes to company B, and that whole situation is done in basically a blink of a mouse. So, but yes, you can have transferable wealth. You can have an exit strategy that now I can operate. I have cash flow coming in on a monthly basis, and when I decide to pull the pin, I can sell the whole business, and there's assets there um, that I can transfer. The other nice thing about the ATM business is it's kind of like a little uh, piggy bank, because now I'm putting in money, and what in my head, what I'm trying to do is I'm making between, in the money that's in ATM, between 70 and 90% of interest every year on that money. So let's say at 100%, if I put $1,000 in the ATM, at the end of the year, I should have $1,000 more. So now I have 2,000. Okay. If I didn't do it so good, I'll have $700. If I did good, better than good, I'll have 100 plus or 1,000 plus. So that is what we're doing. We're constantly turning that money instead of sitting in the bank. We're turning that money daily like this in a circle. And now at the end of, when I want to pull the plug and hit the exit sign, I have something to sell. I got documentation, I got contracts, it's all legitimate, and it's all above board. So it's 100% transparent.
Perfect. Great information. Great information. And as we wrap up again, I want to thank everybody for joining us and watching the episode of just diving deep into the ATM business. I thank you again. And as we close, the purpose of the empowerment platform, our mission is to empower you to reach your goals by providing you with the tools, resources, and information that you need. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.